Orley.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Warren, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can get water today.
That's good.
General public comments. Anyone may address the commission briefly about items not already on the agenda. Anyone from the public this afternoon?
Chair, no hands are raised on Zoom.
Thank you. We'll now move on to special business. Administer the oath of office for alternate public member Commissioner Mike Bickle for the remainder of a 4-year term that expires May 4th, 26. And Michael, would you come forward, please? Have him somewhere. How about in front of the American flag if you want. Coming around.
It's a labyrinth.
About being patriotic. Yeah. Welcome. Thank you. I'll raise your right hand, please. You, Mike Bickle, solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter. I do. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Have a seat when you're right over here. We're gonna accept the Okay, I'm being told to ask for public comments on the closed session. Anyone from the public? Yeah, just in a second. Seeing no public comments, the commission will recess the closed session. Doesn't say what the item public. Okay, the pursuant to code section 54956.9, the commission will confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, Monterey Peninsula Water Management District versus LAFCO. Commissioners of the LAFCO Formation Commission of Monterey County and Monterey County Court Superior Court number 22 CV 925. Okay, we'll go ahead and recess the closed session, and we're going to have a group photo first. Thank you.
Are we going in front?
That's what Safrina says. Yeah. In front of the.
I think so.
In front of the what?
She says in front.
Got it. Yes, ma'am.
Right here.
This.
We'll reconvene back into open session. We'll ask Reed to go ahead and speak about closed session.
Just a brief report out. No reportable action was taken.
Now move on to our consent agenda. If you see everybody, commissioners, on the dais is a supplement on item 6 from our Budget and Finance Committee that was added to our consent. So everybody has a copy of it on the dais. Oh,
Yes,
too fast.
Chair, we do need a roll call before we get going. Thank you.
Thank you. Point of order. You want a roll call? Safrina?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Adams? Here. Commissioner Root Askew? Not back yet. Commissioner Church also not back yet. Commissioner Kong?
Here.
Commissioner Leffel?
Here.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Here.
Commissioner Poitras?
Here.
Commissioner Velasquez? Thank you. Vice Chair Craig? Here. And Chair Gorley?
Here, let the record show Wendy Root Askew is here also.
Thank you.
Glenn Church is on the stairs.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to our consent. And as I said, we were supplied a supplement on the dais for consent item 6. Do we have any action on the consent?
Move approval. Through the chair, move approval.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded on our consent for approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Being none, motion carries. We'll now move on. Thank you. We'll now move on to old business, City of Soledad, Miramonte annexation condition compliance status report and consideration of a time extension. Kate, do you have a report for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair Gorley. And this report will be presented by our principal analyst, Darren McBain.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the Commission. I just have about a 5-minute overview just to kind of give the commissioners some context for what we're doing here today. In December of last year, the Commission's conditional approval of this annexation required the property owner and the City of Soledad to work together to provide agricultural mitigation in the form of either dedicating permanent conservation easements to a land trust or paying in lieu fees or some combination of both to the satisfaction of the LAFCO executive officer before the annexation can be recorded and put into effect. So that's the Commission's condition of approval that we're working to address here. In May of this year, the city submitted an ag mitigation proposal to LAFCO staff proposing conservation easements at a 1-to-1 ratio with a majority of about 80% of the mitigation acreage being proposed on farmland located near the Soledad prisons on a corner of the city's very long-term growth boundary called a permanent agricultural edge that was designated in the 2016 City-County Memorandum of Agreement for Soledad's future growth. And this is a site that's located about 2 miles north of Soledad's main city limits. Also proposed is an additional 90 acres just southeast of Gonzales, about 5 miles north of Soledad's main city limits. But at that time, the applicant's proposal was to put this mitigation into effect through the city's permitting processes sometime after the annexation is complete, which was inconsistent with the Commission's condition of approval, which, by the way, the full text of that condition of approval is, I believe, attachment 2 in your packet today. The Gavilan Mountain Ranch site near the Soledad prisons is pretty far removed from the main city limits. It will probably be a long time before city development ever reaches that area. The Commission did not choose to accept this site as agricultural mitigation during the public hearings for this annexation last December. And also noteworthy is the fact that the Ag Land Trust, which is the nonprofit land trust that most typically receives and holds conservation easements on farmland in the Salinas Valley, has concerns about the long-term groundwater supply and recharge situation in this part of the valley and may not be willing to accept a conservation easement at that location. However, very importantly, parts of this proposed conservation easement, the Gablin Mountain Ranch site, do touch a corner of the city's designated permanent agricultural edge. So there's a very fair case to be made there that location is consistent with the commission's condition of approval requiring ag mitigation to be in the vicinity of the city's urban growth boundary or the permanent agricultural edge as designated in that 2016 city-county MOA. So around May to June, LAFCO staff met with city representatives, reviewed some of the concerns I just mentioned, and so on. And at one of those meetings, a representative of the Ag Land Trust also suggested some other locations in the Soledad area for the city and property owner representatives to investigate. And staff's understanding is that that outreach by the city proceeded along over the course of the summer. At the August meeting, which is last month's commission meeting, the city submitted an update proposing essentially the same sites as before, the sites I just discussed. The timing of the mitigation is no longer in dispute because as of last month, the property owner, everybody recognizes that the ag mitigation has to occur now as part of the LAFCO process. The city indicated they were still looking at some of the other alternative sites too, to see if there might still be any possibilities there. At that meeting last month, staff also asked for the commission's input on the basic approach of this ag mitigation proposal. The commission asked questions and had some discussion, but essentially didn't fundamentally express major concerns with the basic proposal as it was at that time. We concluded the meeting with a basic approach of the city is going to continue to develop their ag mitigation proposal, including possibly lining up a different land trust to accept conservation easements. And that brings us to today's meeting. If I could get the September, just the next page. Yeah, thanks. On Friday, the 15th, the city submitted a revised proposal, which was included in the meeting packet. It's the second map under attachment 3, I believe. With this revised proposal, the acreage mix that was previously proposed was basically flipped, with the majority of the acreage now being proposed in the Gonzales area, and but also with a small portion of the acreage still being proposed on the Gablin Mountain Ranch site near the prisons. At this point of the overview, I was going to say that staff received this proposal just a few days before the meeting packet went out and we're reviewing it. But actually, we do have another update today, just within the last couple of hours. Staff received from the city a new revised proposal with the acreage mostly flipped back to a modified version of what it was with the original proposal. And yeah, that's this map was not included in the packet because we just received it today, but you've got copies that were handed out just within the last few minutes there before you. Again, this is essentially a modified version of the original proposal that the commission saw last month, essentially with most of the acreage back in the Soledad area. At the last meeting, staff mentioned that the Ag Land Trust may be unwilling to accept a conservation easement on the farmland near the prisons because of groundwater concerns. And that may still be the case. Staff will have to consult further with them. Either way, staff is mindful of the fact that the area that we're looking at, particularly the acreage in the Gonzales area, is near the southern edge of a very overdrafted subbasin of the Salinas River called the East Side Subbasin. And in fact, to that end, just last week, the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency had an agenda item with a presentation and new reports underscoring just how overdrafted the East Side subbasin is. As of today, we don't know for sure if the Ag Land Trust has enough information to be able to determine if they would be willing and able to accept a conservation easement on either of the locations shown on this map, but it is something that staff will continue to discuss with the Ag Land Trust. As part of our due diligence going forward, staff also plans to consult with the Groundwater Sustainability Agency to see if they can possibly provide some guidance on the groundwater supply and recharge situation in this specific area where conservation easements are being proposed. Staff will also consult with the County of Monterey and also with the City of Gonzales, particularly, for that area. where the parcels just a little bit southeast of the city of Gonzales are being proposed as ag mitigation. Having said all that, staff is here today to ask for the commission's input on what is being proposed here and whether it's consistent with the commission's intent of that condition of approval from December, with the commission's intent in terms of location of the conservation easements or anything else that the commission may wish to comment on. It's also worth considering that there is a possible alternative of paying in lieu fee payments instead of directly placing conservation easements now. Basically, the property owner could pay a fee to a land trust to be used for purchasing conservation easements at a later time as opportunities arise. That's just a possibility that's still on the table. In closing, staff remains committed to working with the city of Soledad to address this condition of approval so the annexation can be finalized and so development can move forward. To that end, we are recommending that the commission authorize the LAFCO executive officer to approve the one-year time extension that the city is requesting as part of their memo, which is included in your packet today. This extension would basically just extend the commission's approval beyond the automatic one-year expiration date under state law, which will be coming up in December unless an extension is approved. That's the end of my introductory remarks. I'll just, at this point, I think I'll just turn it over to our executive officer to see if she had any other thoughts, observations, or comments on anything I might have neglected, but thank you.
Thank you, Darren. I'd just like to reiterate that this map that we've received this afternoon, this proposal is about the fourth iteration. And so we appreciate the city's efforts, the developers' efforts in resolving this matter. And we continue to make this a very high staff priority to address. We do intend to consult with some of our partner agencies about this and get their views on it, just as we're requesting your input today on an informal basis. And then, yes, we are also asking for your formal action today to please authorize a one-year extension of time so that this condition can be resolved. Thank you.
Public comment. Is that fine with the dais? Any questions from the dais?
Through the chair, point of clarification. Is the city of Seaside going to get opportunity to share their views on this request for extension? Not during public time. City of Soledad, not during public comment, but as an applicant of asking for the extension, I don't think they should be forced to go within the time limit of the public comment. So I'm asking you on how are you going to do it? So I'm not sure how you want to do it.
Okay. We'll open the floor to both the applicant, City of Soledad, and the landowners.
Thank you so much. My name is Megan Hunter. I'm the city manager for the City of Soledad. So I did want to I thank you, Darren and Kate, for the support and explaining what has transpired. I will be clear that in terms of the property, the proposal for this general conservation easement for the developer has not really changed. It's these two larger areas. What we were asked to do was to refine down the total number of acres that need to be provided, which is 460. So initially, because of some of the comments from the Ag Land Trust about preferring the property near to Gonzales, and to keep parcel lines a little easier for everyone, the developer originally proposed what was before you. Subsequently, we met with the city of Gonzales, who requested that the majority of the conservation areas be near Soledad, hence the change to the map. That's what kind of drove the change to the map. We're trying to be collaborative with our sister city. There are 820 acres that represent the Franchoni ranches, which we've submitted numerous water well studies to show that they do have water, but we are amenable or the developer, I should say, is amenable to looking at anywhere that LAFCO would like those 820 acres, and has expressed as much that, we're just looking to satisfy this requirement. So if, we suggested this because this newest map that was presented a couple of hours ago does represent what we had heard from the city of Gonzales. But if there's a different approach, we're amenable to that. The second thing is we appreciate the Ag Land Trust, and the goal of the developer is to work with the Ag Land Trust, but they are not the only trust that does conservation work in this area. And in fact, they have contacted the California Farmland Trust that is very interested in any property that the Ag Land Trust does not want to put into a conservation easement. So I don't want us to just get tied to one conservation organization moving forward, because whether or not, they would like that property or not, there are other entities that would be interested. And then lastly, I think it would be unfair to the developer who spent almost a year trying to identify conservation easements, which the county has told us is the preference is to get conservation easements in, as opposed to an in lieu fee, to actually change or swap out an in lieu fee instead of actually the conservation easement. I feel that they're at the final end of this process. And it's just really, at this point, we're just really coming down to identify the 460 acres among these ranches. And again, I don't want to misspeak for the developer. They're here and can speak for themselves, but they're totally amenable to where LAFCO would like those acres to be, according to the conversations I've had with them. So I think for them, they're really anxious to get over this. And if there's an end game here, it would be great if we knew what that end game is today. And if the commission can make a very clear cut recommendation so we can just move this project forward. So I appreciate your time and thank you. And if the developers can have a minute to add to what I just said, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Moncrief. I represent the developer. My only real comment has to do with water. Again, I'm not sure why this issue keeps coming up. But when it comes to the Raymond Ranch, which is the one next to or close to Gonzales, in addition to the well test that you have in your packet, it's also fed by the Sharp Ranch, which is toward the highway that Mr. Francione also owns. So there's a water system that actually feeds water to that property. And to reiterate what Megan said, I've done my best to find these properties. If anybody's got a better idea, no one's told me in the last 3 years I've been working on this. And at this point, we've done what we can to get something as close to Soledad as we can. I've heard a little bit of I'll call it consternation that the Raymond Ranch is too close to Gonzales, and we can't have both. One can't be too far away and one's too close. They've got to, these are the best properties we can find that fulfill what we are told LAFCO is looking for. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else with the developer, City of Soledad? Let's go ahead and move it back to the dais before public comment.
I have.
Go ahead, Marianne, for questions before public comment.
Did you close public comment?
No, I was opening it up for questions before public comment.
Sorry.
Any questions on the dais?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Marianne.
So I'm just trying, the one that was just handed to us.
Yes.
So if I take this and I look at the three properties, the three gold properties that are closer to Soledad, that's about 364 acres. And you need about 460 or 461. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it would be the combination of those acres up by Gonzales and Soledad that would make up those 460 acres.
So it would be everything that's marked gold.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I was just wanting to make sure I understood what exactly we were talking about, because I saw the black lines drawn out further. So I thought maybe it was something else.
Well, the black lines represent the area that represent the Franchonia ranches. So they could move, if the property in the gold is not satisfactory, it's possible to move within those black lines. We wanted to accommodate our sister city and identify properties that would help them as well. So that's why we picked those gold properties.
Okay, I get it now.
Commissioner Craig, did you have a question?
Yes, the exact same.
Okay, great. We'll now open this up for public comment. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this? Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Chair, no hands are raised on Zoom.
Okay, we'll move this back to the dais. Do we have any comments now from the dais? Marianne?
So I think I can only speak for myself, but I think last year when we looked at this, I'm not sure I rejected anything that was put before us. It was just that there seemed to be a lot of confusion of what properties would be selected and if there would be an in lieu fee or if there would be ag land trust. I think for me, that was what I remember. So it wasn't that I rejected any particular property that was being presented. I want to make that clear. That was what I remember from last year. So it seems to me that the extension is certainly warranted to go to 2024 to give them the rest of the time to work this out, because it looks like they're getting pretty close. So I don't have any other comments or questions. I just wanted to clarify how I voted last time, which.
Thank you. Anyone else on the dais have any questions? Honorable Mayor?
Okay, turn this on. Thank you. Yeah, I just have a quick, and I think this is more a clarification. I know obviously our city manager talked about helping Gonzales. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on supporting our sister cities in terms of their annexation, or just kind of clarification on what that means.
Yeah, so I want to make it clear that it would be fulfilling our requirement for the Miramonte project, but in looking at the location of growth and where it best helps them to establish the permanent edge to their city, we asked them what locations would be the best, and so we work with them to identify that as a good location, because they're also which we support, coming forward with annexation of their own. And that would actually work well together with that property that would also be under conservation easement to kind of create that edge. So that's why we picked the properties that we did.
For further clarification, there is an agenda item that's coming up next on the agenda for the city of Gonzales and their landowners. And if their conservation easement moves forward, the larger picture that we provided in our agenda wouldn't really make any sense at all, because it would basically block any development that grows to the east anyhow. So getting the ag mitigation back towards the city of Soledad just made all the sense in the world. So I'd have to say that I want to see what they presented today on the dais. I'd like to see that move forward, no doubt. But I think what's up before us today for an action, if we could have a motion to approve a 1-year time extension.
I would move that we do approve a 1-year time extension to December 19th of 2024.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded.
On the question, but I know Supervisor Eskew wanted to have a question before you took the motion, but.
It's good. We've got a motion, just further discussion. A question. So in regards to, and I appreciate the conversation, appreciate the work that the city is doing to try to navigate and balance all of the competing
interests and challenges. But in terms of the water issues, which of the map that was just put in front of us, which are the sites that are there concerns about water? Just to make sure I'm understanding which sites. I think it's important that if we're talking about prime ag land, that there's water, sustainable water supply to support that. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding which sites there's potentially.
I can't say this enough. There is no concern about water. And as I said last time, this is a discussion that should not really be had. It's been proven. You've got the well tests. You are Mr. Franchione, again, his business is long-term contracts with premium wineries. And to have this notion out there that there's some issue with water on his properties, which is completely groundless, is beyond me. There's no water issue. I'll drive you guys down there. You can look. The grapes are beautiful this time of year. There's no water issue. There is none. That was conjured out of thin air. It doesn't exist. That's all I can say.
So maybe really restate the question. Let me restate the question. So it's which are the sites that the local land trust has concerns about?
It was the Gavilan Mountain Vineyard. It's the U-shaped.
The U-shaped one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the alternative parcel would be the one that's sort of a long key shape, closer to Gonzales, but the city is proposing that potentially more of the land in the U shape be used so that the city of Gonzales has ag land that's available for. Okay, just want to make sure I'm understanding that very clearly. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem. Just to clarify, it's not an alternative. It's in addition to the land closer to Gonzales.
So everything in gold.
Right.
Is what you're looking at.
But everything in the shaded area, the key shaped adjacent to the farther.
It's all owned by Franchione Ranches is what that shows.
And potentially could be available for ag land easement.
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying those points. My second stands.
Okay. Do we have any questions on the motion? Go ahead, Mayor.
Just my last question on that. So thank you. I appreciate for you mentioning there is no water issues, but I thought there was a statement about an overdraft sub-basin on Gonzales. That was part of a report. So are we talking about those properties up by Gonzales?
So everything that touches just south of Gonzales is called the east water. It's an overdraft east aquifer on the east side of the valley that stretches all the way up, I think all the way up to the Barden, up into the south of Salinas. And so that is in severe overdraft.
Correct. So my question
going
is,
further up into the foothills.
So my question is that there was a statement made about an overdraft sub-basin and it's the East Aquifer, but was it those two identified properties in Gonzales?
So it's a little bit more complicated just because we don't know which wells the aquifer is feeding, if those wells are in which aquifer. So it's really complicated. I don't think we have that information before us tonight, but I've been on all the ranches and I don't think that there's any issues with any of the water on any of those ranches.
Okay, but my question is, there is a report that's going to be produced that's going to state whether
and it came out last week, and that's the east side aquifer, which shows it's an obvious overdraft of that aquifer.
Okay. And so my question is, we don't know. My question was it those two properties that they're concerned with? But what you just stated is a report shows that there's wells, but we don't know where those wells are located.
Which aquifer they're pulling from.
Okay.
And I'm sure that we have those in well data in front of us, but Paul?
I just wanted to clarify that because it's not clear. Yep. So obviously that water issue is not clear whether it's affected or not impacted by these two properties.
Well, I think the question you're asking, it cannot be answered at this moment. What we can tell you is what the well reports show, and the well reports show plenty of water. And in fact, more water than is on the Soledad property. And again, the Raymond Ranch, the one in Gonzales, it also is fed because it's the same owner by the ranch, Sharp Ranch, which is closer to the freeway. So farther away from the east side. So if that helps.
Mayor Oglesby.
No, I don't think I have a question. Just yet. I don't think I'm trying to figure out this water thing, right? Either the developer is right or Ag Land Trust is right. But Ag Land Trust says the piece of property that we may take over, we don't think it's enough water. The developer says the property that they're offering has enough water, right? That's the chicken and egg. Who are you going to believe?
So
So my question is,
go ahead.
my question is for us, if the LAFCO staff is not going to stand behind one statement or the other, then what happens to the other land trusts throughout California that says they are comfortable with that piece of property? We can't push this development to find land and then push them towards the Ag Land Trust that says we don't want to take that parcel as mitigation. And then they're here saying, hey, give us another extension for a year so we can figure it out. At a certain point, this board is going to have to make decisions about whether it's water or not, whether we believe it's water or not, and then move the project forward. And that's what I'm having difficulties understanding is what is the LAFCO staff doing to get this project up and running and moving it forward. And so at a certain point, the board just needs to be clear about we want this thing to move forward or we don't. I heard Soledad said they're not interested, a developer not interested in a monetary fee. They want to really figure out this land thing because they've been doing it for the last year and they're trying to find land. But if there's no land close to Soledad, where are they supposed to find the mitigated land at? We're running out of land. And I agree 100%. Don't put it next to Gonzalez because then you may be blocking them, right? But we have to allow them to find land wherever it's at. Otherwise, what happens to the next city? What happens to the next community that is looking for this mitigation land if we say it has to be a certain place and it has to be acceptable to a certain group of people, but we don't have no say over those group of people, right? So I'm not willing to turn over my authority to a group of people that are not going to stand here and verify that there's no water when a developer said there is water, right? And I'm not saying trust them, but if the information is there that the water is there, then we have to at a certain time we have to say that land is viable land for what we're trying to do at this LAFCO at this time. And so I support the extension, but if it just leads to 12 months of them doing flips over where this exact piece of property is at, I'm just worried about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I was going to ask, I thank you, Commissioner Oglesby, because I think that's the dilemma that we're facing. We have 820 acres identified. That has not changed. The developer has indicated that wherever that would satisfy the LAFCO board, we will provide those 460 acres. But it's confusing because we keep doing these well studies, these well reports. We identify this acreage here. Maybe it doesn't work. I think we're at a time where we need just direction. Like, yes, thank you again, Commissioner Oglesby. Yes, we agree that these areas are okay. Go work with the executive officer and our sister city Gonzalez to come up with those 460 acres among this area. Thank you.
I'm gonna bring it back, and I don't know if it's going to answer anybody's questions. We're only satisfying taking away the development rights. LAFCO is not going to end up with the property or the land trust. It's only going to have the development rights of these parcels. In my mind, they're prime ag, sub-prime ag with the gravelly soils, decomposed granite soils in all of these areas that are shown in gold. Even if they're dry land farmed, they're still going to be farmed. They're never going to be developed. And to me, that's the issue, whether they have water or not. The issue is they will remain farm land forever. And so that's going to create the boundaries. Back in 1998, the mayor of Soledad at the time told me that he was going to grow the city of Soledad all the way up to the borders of Gonzales. And this just helps to prevent it. So this is something. He was going to annex the Salinas Valley State Prison at the time. So this is, the more of these properties that we can put in perpetuity to landlock the cities, to have the cities grow east. That's what I want, even if they're dry land farm. That's my own opinion. I think we just need to get there, whether there's water or not. There's not going to be housing on it. Housing is going to take more water than an acre of grapes. Acre of houses, 7 to 10 units per acre, is going to take more than an acre of grapes. The grapes have been on these properties for 20, 25, 30 years. They will continue long past the current owner of the grapes. So I just think we just need to move this down. We need to give them some certainty of moving this project forward and get this down.
So is that a friendly amendment to the motion to approve what they're proposing in terms of land acquisition?
I don't think that's up for decision. I think the only thing that's up for decision.
They're looking for direction from this board.
So would we have to add that as an agenda item?
No, we are asking for your guidance.
Okay.
In this.
Is that a friendly amendment on the motion? The maker of the motion, Mary Ann, did you make the motion?
What are you asking? That we are telling them to go work with staff and figure out which of these acres they take?
Yeah, I think that's what was presented to us today, the gold.
But I don't see that as that is anything that we are to vote on. I only see the date extension, but I think then if we could, and that's on the table. So maybe we take a vote on that and then give staff direction on what we want them to go do.
So a point of clarification, it's asking for the proposed agricultural mitigation actions, which would be this as part of the staff recommendation. Provide input to staff on the city's proposed agricultural mitigation actions and approve a 1-year time extension.
Can you make that a friendly amendment to your motion?
I can make that a friendly amendment that I would like us to get this settled.
Okay. And the second?
I just to be clear, we're saying and can extend for a year
and for staff to work
out
What's
and then extend, which is basically why we're extending for a year.
which of these gold blocks is chosen.
And I would say if suddenly the city finds another gold block that fits somewhere, make it happen. I mean, I guess I don't want to put a limit on what's in front of us right here without staff saying like, this is the only thing we want to work with.
They're never going to say that. They're never going to say that. And the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to settle it and it comes back to us for approval. We're not directing them what alternative to take. I think we want to provide our input to say, take the deal, take an alternative, because it's the same conversation we've been having for a year. So exactly which parcel? I'm not here today to say which one, but I'm here to say we need to settle this without them coming back a year from now saying, well, somehow nothing is acceptable. Nothing has been acceptable to the LAFCO staff, meaning LAFCO board. Do we want to be having that conversation? And so I'm just saying we're not directing at this point what staff does. I think we're saying staff needs to move the process. And I think we had the ability to say that without directing her which parcel to take.
So I don't know which one of us. So I know we've both been here trying to get attention.
I was going to let Kate chime in first.
Oh.
Hang on just a quick sec. Okay, Commissioner Church, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead, let Kate go ahead, chime in, and maybe it'll take care of my conversation. I'm trying to recognize about 10 minutes. So.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to clarify that with respect to the 2 gold parcels near the top of the map here, just below Gloria Road, that again, we just received this proposal this afternoon. And so because there is no designated by the city and by the property owner, there is no land trust right now willing to step in and take on these parcels. we as an agency need to do some due diligence that would normally be done by the local agricultural land trust. We normally can stand behind their work and their research. And if they think a parcel is going to work for them and they're willing to hold these easements, that's great. But right now, we don't have that local land trust. We've heard discussion about another land trust. We've had no conversations with them. We have not conferred with them. We don't know what their conditions would be. Have they asked for 48-hour well tests? Have they asked for recharge studies on all of these parcels? We don't know the answers to that. We don't know what data is available. And so I'd really just like to sit down with I understand the direction that we're going to work within the parameters of what's available to the Franchione family. And that's everything in the black and gold lines here. So that makes sense. And I do feel as Megan said, we're getting very close. We're fine tuning this. And so at this moment, though, we don't have any water information. I don't have it for these 2 gold parcels that have just been designated at 2:00 today as being the latest candidates. So I need to go and check with the GSA, check with Paul Moncrief and the city, with the property owners, see what information we have, confer with the city of Gonzales, make sure that this is okay with them because we are in their proximity. There's just some questions that need to be answered, but they're not a wide spectrum of questions. It's a very narrow set of questions, and nothing needs to be perfect, but we do need some basic answers. So what I'm hearing, at least from some of the commissioners, is the concept of, yes, Kate, move forward within the parameters of what's available for conservation easements to the Franchione family, or easements with the Franchione properties being the receiver sites as conservation easements. That's very helpful, and that is consistent with what our staff's intention is as we move forward. So I don't know if any of that helps.
Commissioner Church?
Yeah, well, that's kind of touches upon some of the points that I wanted to raise out here too, because we're looking at it's a moving target. We just have new information in now on possible sites, and I'm all for extending this. Absolutely, I want to, and everybody's talking about water, but I don't know if there's a hydrologist in this room. So, and the idea of, well, things look green there now. If that's the case, then we don't have any water problems in this valley because it's all green. So it really goes a little deeper. I mean, I want to hear from the GSA. I mean, there's nobody that knows this better than probably the GSA on the water at this point. So I think we really need to have some input coming in from that, and not thinking what to do here. I'm not really impressed with the idea of dry farming. Frankly, I don't want to go back to the 19th century, and agriculture is a heart on this valley. We need good farmland. I think that's what the whole purpose of this is. If we're just looking at, if we're going to have houses or dry farming, then we might as well, solve some of California's problems with housing. This is because agriculture is jobs, it's economy, it's everything in this county, in this valley. Again, looking at this, I just think we need, you can look at a well report and we all can look at that. None of us are well drillers. I want to know what's really going on. As Chair Gurley pointed out, exactly where are these wells pulling the water out? I think that's a real important statement into there. And that's where we need the GSA in here. And I think before we really go on and really give that kind of solid direction, we got to get some input from the GSA. Otherwise, we're just, we might as well just be taking dice and throwing them out or reading what we want out of it. So thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Poitras.
The only thing I wanted to say was this can go on forever. We could be here next year and they could be asking for another extension. And that concerns me. We need to give finality in the end to people that have requests like this. Yeah, I'm willing to go ahead with the extension, but let's get it done. There's too many questions that need to be answered. Get them answered, and let's not be back here in a year with the same issue.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Any other comments from the dais?
Yeah, just my point. Certainly, Supervisor Church, I can appreciate I did not go to college for hydrology, but we are decision makers. And I have concerns about dragging out a process. We have regional housing needs and RENA numbers. We have state mandates for building housing. And I could tell you, we could play checkers all day long on this map and try to figure out where best everybody likes, the protected land. And I can appreciate, and particularly in government, when you have governments working together to find commonality and compromise and collaboration to find locations to bring to LAFCO for a decision. I mean, I appreciate that. And to Kate's point, if she needs to review this, I understand, but I do think we need to be able to, Commissioner Oglesby's point, Oglesby's point, that I do think we need to be making some decisions so that they have direction and they can actually move forward on the project. It's been a year. Like, that's crazy. We should. They're asking of us is like, hey, we need to be able to move forward. So I'm fine if we need to give Kate the opportunity to ask a few questions, but I would expect, those responses to come back within a month so that they can move forward on whatever they're looking to accomplish here. I mean, it should not be, City of Gonzales is here. If we need to hear from the City of Gonzales, come on up, let us know how you feel about it. But yeah, I mean, so those are my 2 cents. And I would love to hear from Gonzales. Thank you.
Okay. We have a first and a motion and a second.
I had one. I'm sorry. I had one other comment that I didn't get to make, and that was about the other land trust involved into this. How much contact have they seen the well information? Have they seen all this? Have they seen the concerns that have been expressed? Have they seen the report from the GSA on the east side aquifer?
I don't know about the GSA, but they have all the information you have, which includes the well reports on this land close to Gonzales.
Okay.
And it's in the packet that you have now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And basically what I'm asking for is kind of following through what Kate is saying. Let's get information here, but let's get something from the GSA that we all can see, because we are decisions makers, but we got to have information. And I haven't seen information the 6 months I've been on here, 8 months.
I just want to say about dry land farming, I paid $8.99 a pound for dry land farm tomatoes at Whole Foods last week. So there must be some money in it.
Thank you.
Something real quick about that. The standard here is not whether this property can be farmed in perpetuity. The standard is it comparable to the land in Soledad? And the well reports are nearly identical. So
thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree. It's just one commissioner said they're comfortable with dry farming, and so I wouldn't take that as though, even though he's our leader, I wouldn't take as though the rest of us agree with that, right? But I think you made a good comment, which is comparable land. That's the standard. But now we're talking about going and get the GSA to look at it. So is that going to be the final arbiter? Because normally we just said for the last year and a half, it's the land trust. And so if they found a land trust that said they're willing to take that piece of land, then I don't know why we need the next step of the GSA. And I'm supportive if that's what we want to do. I'm just going to highlight it shouldn't have took us asking today for that, right? If that's what we needed information on, that should have been ordered. And however it got paid for, we should have had that discussion, right? Because it's unfair to hold them up because one group says we don't find the water there. They found a land trust throughout this, California, and they said, hey, we think we're okay with it. Now we're going to change the standard, which is no, this board needs the GSA. And I'm not saying you say that. I'm just saying that information should have been provided way before today's discussion. And so thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Can we move up? Oh, Public comment. I think I closed the public comment, but if Gonzalez wants to speak, by all means.
Gonzalez is in the room. Thank you. Tavin Kinnison Brown, Community Development Director for the City of Gonzales. And I appreciate the comments about city governments and other governments working together. This location, known here as the Gold property tonight, has actually been on the city's radar since our MOA in 2014 as helping us perfect our permanent edge. So while we thought it was going to come from our own need to mitigate around our own city, our sister city here, who's been looking for mitigation lands, this one is actually tight enough and close enough to our limit in a place that we are looking for mitigation regardless of a water report. We're looking to perfect our permanent edge. And that Gold location, the one that's adjacent right to Gloria Road, helps us perfect our map. So there's another reason that's already been discussed, fleshed out through LAFCO processes and MOUs of where we intend to have a permanent edge. And this proposal, if they can record easements here and find someone who's going to administer that, is okay by the city of Gonzales.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Are you clear on the motion?
Could I have it stated for the record, please? Because we've gone back and forth a couple of times.
Marianne?
Commissioner?
The motion is to give a time extension to December 19th, 2024, and to provide input. And our input is that within the lots that are proposed on the Francione properties and with the properties that are nearer to Soledad, that somewhere our staff work with the staff of Soledad and the staff of Gonzales to find 461 acres that are acceptable.
Yep. Are you agreeable to the motion?
And staff says they can work with that. Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
I think it's a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Oh, 462, sorry.
462. Okay.
462. We added an acre.
My project. I don't know if you need to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rudasky. Commissioner Church.
Aye.
Commissioner Leffel.
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby.
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras.
Yes.
Vice Chair Craig.
Yes.
And Chair Gorley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to
Chair Gorley, can I upset this a minute? We approved the consent agenda, but we had been handed on the dais correction
on item 6.
on 6.
Right.
And
That was part of the motion.
okay, just I wanted to make sure that it was because I was like,
Yeah, it was. I called it out as a supplemental
thank you.
on the dais. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to a public hearing this afternoon. Still afternoon. Consider City of Gonzales Gloria Road Ag Cooler Annexation Proposal of approximately 49 acres east of US Highway 101, north of Gloria Road, and future ag industrial development. Adopt a resolution as our recommended action. We will receive a report from our executive director.
Thank you, Chair Gorley. Darren will present this report.
Thank you. This is a proposal by the City of Gonzales for annexation of a 49-acre site on the north side of Gloria Road for future ag industrial development. The site is adjacent to existing city limits, and it is also within the city's sphere of influence as designated by the Commission in 2014. Annexation will facilitate development of a planned 315,000 square foot agricultural processing facility that will support the long-term health and vitality of the local ag economy and is anticipated to provide more than 400 jobs. The site is currently farmland in active production, and the proposal includes ag mitigation in the form of a permanent conservation easement at 1-to-1 ratio very nearby on the south side of Gloria Road. The Ag Land Trust has agreed to accept the easement. Staff's review of the proposal finds it to be consistent with LAFCO's legal requirements and policies as discussed in the staff report and the draft resolution you have before you today. Therefore, staff is recommending today that the commission take public comments, consider the environmental document prepared by the city pursuant to CEQA, and adopt draft resolution approving this annexation to the city of Gonzales, along with standard detachments from 2 rural special districts that exist in the unincorporated area. That's the Fire Protection District and the Resource Conservation District. The draft resolution also waives protest proceedings for this proposal as allowed by state law. One minor correction I'd like to read into the record briefly. Item 6C on page 4 of the draft resolution. This is a condition of approval regarding ag mitigation. In consultation with the applicant representatives today, we've determined that it would actually make more sense to remove that part of the condition that says by the city of Gonzales. So that would be just a simple strikeout of the phrase by the city of Gonzales. Although the city is the applicant of record, it would really be the property owner who would be working directly with the Ag Land Trust to finalize the dedication of that conservation easement. And we don't want to confuse things. So just to keep it clear, staff is recommending that we just remove the phrase by the city of Gonzales and otherwise just leave that condition of approval and everything else about the resolution the way it is. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Darren, before you stop, could you please show on the map for our commission where the proposed conservation easement is?
Yes, I think we'll have to bring up the full packet. If Jonathan, I think we'll just take a moment to do that. Mm-hmm. It's shown for anybody who has a packet or a binder in front of them, it's attachment 10.3 and the first page of that memorandum from Attorney Christine Kemp on behalf of the property owners to the city of Gonzales. We went ahead and included the whole memo. It's basically, there's a map attachment that shows where the conservation easement is going to go. It's not directly across from the project site. It's a little bit to the east. And the reason for that is that it's being proposed on lands that are a similar mix of prime farmland and a slightly lesser designation called farmland of statewide importance. It's a similar mix of acreage of both of those categories, very comparable to the site being developed. So there is a good sound reason for the mitigation, the conservation easement being proposed where it is being proposed.
And it is definitely within the vicinity of the prior item that we just talked about. As Tavin mentioned, the city of Soledad's proposed mitigation sites, those 2 gold properties up near Gloria Road, are close to but not quite touching this easement site.
Yeah, and we can bring that up on the screen if that would be helpful. I think we're just about there.
Does the developer or the applicant, the landowner, city of Gonzales wish to comment? The Honorable Mayor Rios.
Thank you, Chairman Gordley. Yes, Jose Rios, Mayor for the City of Gonzales. I've had the honor of being elected a few years ago, and so I'm here proudly representing the community of Gonzales. And I want to share with you, I brought this up with me. I think Mr. Gurley is aware of this. This is what we call the Gonzales way. Okay? Everybody see that? Love, care, connect. And I think this project fits that perfectly. The love and the care is Mr. Rianda is a long-term member of the community, and I'm sure he could have cited this cooler in any other location that he has, but he chose Gonzales because it's home, and we appreciate that. The connection part is we have existing 138 acres that annex already into the city, and we hope to have a future subdivision in there, and that would complete, this piece of property would complete the ability to extend Herald Parkway all the way to La Gloria Road, allowing our residents to more easily access the 101 and get out of the city of Gonzales when needed. So we're really very appreciative of what he's brought forward. We love the jobs, but we love the connectivity as well. I'm here with Carmen Gill, our city manager. You've already heard from Tavin, and then our consultant, Brent Sama, who present the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Glad to be with you again. Brent Slama under contract to the City of Gonzales for this project. Do you have a couple slides we'll get to briefly if we can? Meanwhile, just thank the applicant team. We've been working on this project a lot over the last few months. The city has done a lot of work to facilitate this project. Mayor talked about jobs. We talked about economic development. You can go ahead. Jump to the next slide, please. It'll get there. That's the team, everyone behind us. Mr. Perry had to leave, I believe, a little earlier, but that's our team. Next slide. This is the site. Any questions? This is our permanent edge on Gloria Road. Anything to the south of that, we're putting in permanent edge. Everything to the north is for development. This is the actual site we're talking about. That was shown on the map. Next slide, please. This is the project. I don't want us to spend too much time talking about the specifics of the project. We did that with our city planning commission and city council, but suffice it to say, we're really excited about this opportunity. Gloria Road will be expanded. Harold Parkway will be extended, as the mayor said, and we're really excited about this. Next slide, please. The city has taken all the actions necessary to facilitate this development. You have the CEQA document for your review. Not mentioned here, but you also have a very thick water supply assessment that was completed there that talks about the city's ability to provide water, provide sewer services. There's a plan for services there. They have a use permit from the city contingent on annexation to build the cooler. There were general plan amendments in order to facilitate this. The property is pre-zoned as industrial, and here we are at LAFCO. Next slide, please. We've gone over all these issues. We can be happy to go to any of them in detail in sections of the document if you want. I'm not going to do that right now unless there are any specific questions, but we've addressed all of these in our thick documentation on this project. Happy to respond to any specific comments you may have later. Go ahead. This is the map of the area extension. So over to the east, eventually there'll be, that's the edge of the sphere and kind of that area we're talking about right on the corner, potential mitigation at some point out in that area. This is well beyond where this cooler is going to be up along the Gloria Road corridor, but that was what we did with the general plan. That's kind of what goes out past that area. Next slide, please. There were some questions in the documentation and some of the comments from the county, and as we went through this process about some considerations why this was going here. All these considerations were taken by the Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council, but more than happy to discuss any of those if you have questions about any specifics about the location of the project and the property. As we mentioned, the applicant owns the parcel. There are no existing parcels in the business park that we have that would accommodate this project. The project's already compatible with the existing city zoning or county zoning as an agricultural fields, but pursuant to the terms of the MOA and the agreement with the city and the county, the area is referred to the city for annexation, and that's the process we're going through. But it could be approved under the county under the current agricultural zoning designation. Obviously, the goal is we've already had the county and the city approve a tax transfer agreement, and bringing those services into the city, the sewer, water, police, fire, just makes sense from an urban development standpoint. It's right adjacent to the interchange. It's adjacent to the existing commercial property on the west side. It's a positive fiscal impact to the city. It helps the jobs housing balance for the city. So for all those reasons, we've moved forward and come to you for annexation. Next slide, please. We hope that as you've looked in the packet, you've considered our plan for services. We're happy to report that the Ag Land Trust is in complete support of this dedication that we're offering. It's adjacent, right near the property. It's on the south side of Gloria, as our community development director talked about, the permanent edge for the city. It just makes a whole lot of sense. So those are all the considerations that we hope you're taking tonight. Next slide. I think that was the end. I think this project, of course, is subject to a bunch of conditions of approval. There's 83 of them. There was some concern in some of the correspondence that was in the staff report from the county about making sure certain things were addressed. We've addressed them. The applicant's aware of the conditions. The applicant has accepted going through with them and implementing them. Next slide, which I think is the last one. So there are special conditions in the CEQA document and in the city that we're looking at. They will be conserving water. They'll be building it to do that. They're going to be, the wastewater is not all going to go into the city's plant. It's going to be discharged at a site across the street. That's just going to be a much better way of doing things. We've addressed the circulation out there, the widening of Gloria Road, the parking there. There was a concern about fencing and landscaping, and building sufficient buffer zones from future residential. There's not residential out there right now, but knowing that at some point there will be a buffer and building that between the industrial and future residential to the north or to the east. There's a lot of requirements there. Fire safety, hazardous materials, when you talk about the potential for any issues with some of the chemicals that are out there, construction, demolition, debris, and of course, agricultural mitigation, which for this project, we feel that we have addressed to the satisfaction of all parties involved. So that's my last slide. We're here, the whole team, the applicant team, if you have specific questions for any of us about this project. Otherwise, we hope that you've received all the materials and that we can get a positive vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the applicant, developer, landowner?
I guess I meet all those criteria.
All the above?
Yeah, all the above. Mike Rianda, just want to say thank you for letting us bring this project to the commission here and to the city of Gonzales. And I was going through some paperwork the other day and found the deed when we purchased this property. My grandfather sold the property to my dad in 1961. So we've been around here a long time and continue to farm, and we'll continue to produce agricultural products. That's it. Any questions for me? Just
thank you, Mike.
Let me have it.
Okay, I think we can open this up for public comment. Anyone from the public?
Hi, Megan Hunter, City Manager for the City of Soledad. Of course, just wanted to express our support for the project. We think that actually what happens in Gonzales is good for Soledad because many of our folks live or work in those communities. I did want to mention that as it relates to ag mitigation, this property is a little bit unique because the property owner can be the receiver site and is also the developer. So I just want to stress how difficult it is to do these agricultural conservation easements. And as you're thinking about policy moving forward, it'll be important to build in some flexibility, looking at in lieu fees and other things. And also, I don't want them to get too connected with looking at groundwater sustainability on this project, because I know our projects are similarly located. So hopefully it can move forward without further study of the water, because that does bring a lot of challenges moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Anyone else? Anybody on Zoom? This is a public hearing, public comment at this time.
Chair, no hands are raised on Zoom.
Okay, bring it back. Any other public comment for this public hearing? Bring it back for any questions or comments from the dais. Commissioner, ask.
Thank you. I should say it's always great when we have a project that is clearly found by LAFCO staff to be, I'm just going to read this, in the public interest and consistent with the requirements of our state LAFCO law and locally adopted LAFCO policies, as well as being consistent with our fundamental LAFCO objectives of encouraging orderly development of local government agencies while efficiently providing local government services. This seems like an easy one to support. So thank you for the work that the city has done. Thank you to the property owner who's willing to work with the city. And thank you to LAFCO staff for the clear staff report.
This side of the dais, Mayor Oglesby.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the property owner for being part of improving our community, improving the county. It takes a lot to, divide up your farmland that's been here in your family for decades. But part of the solution is when it can be done, I just want to say we appreciate the property owners for allowing it to be done.
Thank you. And Commissioner?
Thank you very much. I as well am very supportive of the project. I think it sounds like a really good solution. I also like the idea of the jobs housing comment that was made. And I just want to go back to the previous item though, because I'm fearful that the houses that are going to be built in the Miramonte project are not houses that the people who are going to have the jobs in the Rianda project are going to be able to afford. It's just a comment that I felt like I wanted to make.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, just also want to express my support for this. Looks like a really good project, well thought out. Everything falls on together, and glad to see it. And I won't ask any questions what your feelings are on dry farming.
Started that way. Yes. Commissioner.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you for bringing this forward. And I think for, just in terms of some of the elements that were brought up in terms of jobs as well in South County region, I think it's really important for us as we're looking at jobs and creation of jobs in our corridor to really also address some of the quality of life impacts to our population that most of them commute out to work. And it's really nice to be able to see that some of these projects that are being proposed also include some of that job creation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I would like to go ahead and move a motion, be the maker of the motion that we approve staff's recommendation for the resolution this afternoon with a slight correction by the city of Gonzales in section 6, item C.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Rutascu. Commissioner Church. Commissioner Leffel.
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby.
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras.
Yes.
Vice Chair Craig.
Aye.
And Chair Gorley.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Wow. Let's executive officers communications.
Thank you, Chair Gorley, members of the commission. Agenda item number 11 of your packet contains a written report on 6 items for your information. And most noteworthy there is to acknowledge the passing of a former Monterey County Supervisor and LAFCO Commissioner Lou Calcagno earlier this month. Thank you.
Commissioner comments? I'd like to adjourn the meeting on behalf of our former commissioner who was very instrumental in setting golden lines for each one of the cities for their growth areas and moving forward. And he put so much effort into ag land mitigation, and I just appreciate all of his efforts. So on behalf of Lou Calcagno, may you rest in peace. I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.